The marchers are on their way to the Western Wall. They're celebrating the 68th anniversary of Israel's independence. Several years ago, when they celebrated the 62nd anniversary, we talked to a man who lived through that history. He not only lived that history, but he chronicled it with his camera. More than 60 years ago, Israeli photojournalist David Rubinger began his career, just before the birth of the State of Israel.
That gave me a chance that very few photographers have to really cover a story, an entire story from A to Z.
Rubinger tells his story and Israel's in a book called Israel Through My Lens. Documented those early historic days, like the day in 1947 when the UN voted for the establishment of a Jewish state.
People were dancing in the street. The young kids, on the morrow of the UN decision to establish the State of Israel, climbed aboard a British armored car with the British police numbers on it and the British driver, and with a hand-painted flag.
He began as a freelance cameraman and later worked for years as time-lapse photographer. He showed Israel's first years, its fight for independence, and the joy of Jews returning to the Promised Land from all over the world.
The idealism, the feeling, the striving for equality, social justice, ashamed not to work.
During his career, he's photographed nearly all of Israel's leaders, from Jerusalem's legendary mayor Teddy Kollek to its future Prime Minister Shimon Peres, Prime Minister Golda Meir at the Knesset and in her kitchen, Yitzhak Rabin and his wife Leah having breakfast, then Israeli Generals Rabin and Moshe Dayan during wartime. And of course, Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion.
His face was something. I have it on the cover of one of my books. It's like granite, strong like a rock.
He's covered Israel's triumphs, capturing the jubilation after the successful raid on Entebbe. He showed Israel's suffering through its many wars.
One of my dearest pictures is one taken in Aswan in 1980. Very, very intimate pose between two leaders after 4 wars. And such intimacy.
But Rubinger's most famous photograph came during the 1967 Six-Day War. For the first time in nearly 2,500 years, Israeli paratroopers captured Jerusalem's Old City and the famous Western Wall. The paratroopers came to the wall, and Rubinger was there.
In order to get any little bit of perspective, I wanted to shoot from below, and I was lying on the ground and shooting, and these 3 soldiers just walked by. I got 3 frames, nearly identical.
Years later, Rubinger photographed those same 3 paratroopers back at the Western Wall. The men and their country have grown up.
Grown up is the word. Gone is the beauty of childhood, the idealism of youth.
Since 1967, Rubinger feels Israel has made unwise decisions. He's very critical of many of its policies. But as the nation celebrates one more anniversary, he says it's been a remarkable history.
Summing up 62 years, you still cannot avoid realizing one thing. I think it's unprecedented in history that people did in 60 years what this country did in 60 years.